Welcome back to the Fast Life Podcast, which is brought to you by Simpson Motorcycle Helmets. Without a doubt, Simpson has been my go-to helmet since 2016. Their iconic and aggressive style has set them apart from other brands. Simpson offers many different styles of helmets to fit your taste and budget. Head on over to simpsonmotorcyclehelmets.com to check out all the different options they have for you, and give these guys a follow on Instagram at Simpson Motorcycle Helmets. On today's episode, we have John Stromberg of Lucky 7 Customs out of Amarillo, Texas. I stopped in on my way out to California. He showed me the shop, tons and tons of cool stuff, a lot of history with this man in custom paint in the motorcycle industry, and we're about to hear all about it right here on this podcast. But first, let's jump into these sponsors, and then we'll get right into the show. Cowboy Harley Davidson is located in South Austin, and they are ready to help you get on the new bike you have been thinking about, or help you get your current bike dialed in with all the performance parts and upgrades you need. From service to sales and everything in between, check them out at cowboyharleyaustin.com and on Instagram at Cowboy Harley Austin. They have new 2023 bikes rolling in daily, so give them a call or head in and let them know that the Fast Life sent you. Our longest running podcast supporter, Lexin Moto, and our Bluetooth headset of choice here at the Fast Life since 2019, is still here providing you with one of the best Bluetooth headsets on the market, the G16, which I personally use on my motorcycle rides to check out everything from my favorite playlists to my favorite podcast. The battery life and sound quality is amazing on these headsets. Earlier this year, Lexin dropped the Smart Tire Pump, which became an instant everyday carry for many people on motorcycle trips. Well, now they have refined and taken the pump to new levels with the Lexin Smart Tire Pump Gen 2, which now offers an internal cooling fan, is 20% smaller in design, and can double as a portable charger while you're away from civilization. Pair these great products with some of the best customer service in the industry, and head on over to lexin-moto.com and drop the Fast Life offer code to save yourself 15% off your order. And don't forget to give these guys a follow on Instagram at Lexin Moto. If you have seen any of my personal bikes in person or on the gram over the past 6 years, you will definitely notice my ongoing support for Lucky Dave's. Their seats have always fit my ass perfectly and had the style profile I prefer in the 2-up seat game. I have ran the San Diego bars on my FXR and Dynas for years. Now I currently run the Peacemaker bar and riser series on my 2020 Road Glide. These bars are dope, with many options to customize the appearance, as well as get you dialed at the right height and hand position. I would go as far to say that the Lucky Dave's riser bar is one of the most comfortable bars on the market, no matter what risers you put them in. Check out all the options for your ride at luckydaves.com and give these guys a follow to stay up on product releases and inventory restocks on the gram at Lucky Daves.
Hey guys, you ready to let the dogs out?
Fast Life Podcast.
All right. Well, John, you have a name that is hard to just say the first name.
Yeah.
You got that first and last name kind of say. John Stromberg.
That's it.
Where's that? What's that?
It's Swedish. Yeah. My great-great-great-grandfather was from Norway to Sweden and then here.
Oh, okay. So, I can see a little Viking in you.
Yeah, there's a little Viking.
So, from Taos, New Mexico. Is that how you say it?
Yeah, my family was from Taos.
Nice.
I was born in Arizona, but we were back and forth living there till we ultimately ended here. So,
Amarillo. So you spent your childhood here in Amarillo? Or?
I got here in 78. I was 8 or 9 years old.
Okay.
So before that, we lived between Taos and Fort Worth.
Damn. Well, this is between Taos and Fort Worth.
Yeah, this is it. Pick the one in the middle.
That's cool, man. Well, just going with you just now to the little Route 66 bar. What was it called? Smoky Joe's?
Smoky Joe's.
That's cool, man. Like, I don't even feel like we really have anything like that in Dallas. I mean, we have strokers, but that's not that vibe. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, that vibe is cool. Just the whole street, how it's just old. There's a handful of bars on the street, a lot of old little vintage kind of spots on it and shit. So I dug it. I thought it was pretty nice.
Yeah, it's a fun place. It's a fun place. Everybody likes it. All summer long, it's packed.
All summer.
Packed, you bet.
So, you moved here in '78. What was, growing up here, like, how do you fall into motorcycles and paint and all this stuff? I mean,
yeah, well, my dad, he was a cowboy as a young man, and then he was in the military. He was more of a car guy. He had cars, which in turn made me a car guy. When I got probably 7 or 8, he went off and did other things, and I ended up living with my grandparents.
yeah.
So, and my grandparents raised me. I lived with them. He was in and around occasionally, but just enough to,
What was cowboy? I mean, I understand what it is, but that's kind of a demanding job where you're on site a lot, right?
Well, when I was young, he was a head dude at an Arizona dude ranch where people would go pay for the week to do cowboy stuff.
Oh, okay.
And he was the guy that kind of took them around, and at the end of their week they'd have a rodeo. He'd let them, show them how to do rodeo stuff. And then after that, he was also he was one of those guys that, I guess, like a Renaissance style man. Of course, his age, they had to do everything. So he was a heavy mechanic. He was a alcohol and drug abuse counselor. He did everything. So he kind of moved around a lot, and I didn't like moving. So my grandparents were right there to kind of give me a little stability.
Yeah, you kind of want that when you're growing up, especially through high school and whatnot.
Oh, yeah.
I feel like it's a double-edged sword, though, because if you can break the mold of being comfortable being in new environments, I think that's a valuable skill to learn as a young person,
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
there's also a harder path, too.
Yeah, the social skills it gives you. I mean, you better learn to make friends. It's always uncomfortable. I think I would have been uncomfortable moving all the time. I have a real routine. Still to this day, I have the same friends from the 3rd grade. So same exact ones. I make others, but those ones are, they're my core group.
That's cool. Man, that's awesome. I think that's every guy's dream.
Yeah. So through the car stuff, all that kind of spills over into that whole culture. You have a car guy, and then all of a sudden there's a motorcycle guy. Well, when we lived in Taos, my dad, like I said, he did cowboy stuff. They were kind of hippie parents. Well, they hung out with a biker group there called the Mountain Rats. So they were always at our house, on pulling up on their motorcycles, and the 70s doing their motorcycle stuff. They were smoking the marijuanas and just partying and stuff.
Yeah.
So I was around motorcycles at that age, and of course, you're 6 or so. That's pretty cool.
Hell yeah.
A guy has a naked girl painted on his tank. That's great. You're 6. You want to look at that pretty much regular. So anyway, that was part of the spark. And then whenever I got to high school, I had friends that had bikes. Of course, most of them were Harleys at the time. Everybody had a little Japanese bike or a dirt bike. I still had cars. I had muscle cars and did drag racing. Then probably right before my son was born in '92, I bought a little Honda Shadow. Well, I couldn't afford a Harley, new kid, all coming, so I painted it. I started working in a body shop at this point. Anyway, so there's the motorcycle started, and I never turned. I just kept on going.
How was the paint stuff? So did you just start working in a body shop, just normal paint and body? Like you weren't trying to pursue custom yet? Or?
Well, let me back up a little bit. So in high school, I went to the vocational education, and I did digital electronics. I really didn't want to work on cars like my dad did. I like cars, but I mean, he was always greasy. You were in the hot, you're in the cold. Yeah, it was shitty. So I thought, well, maybe I'll work on TVs or something. Who knows? So I did 4 years of digital electronics, and when I graduated high school, I had a little art scholarship, and wherever school it was, I couldn't go. It still took money. It says scholarship, but it doesn't mean.
Yeah, they covered your books, maybe.
Yes.
I have had the pleasure of running Arlen Ness motorcycle products on my Road Glide and now Lowrider ST. From wheels to handlebars and everything in between, Ness has the parts to not only make your motorcycle look badass, but also perform better. A great place to start on your custom journey is with one of the 12 different custom air cleaners Ness provides, giving you options to fit your budget and taste. There is no shortage of killer products for you to enhance your motorcycle riding experience. Head on over to arlenness.com to see the vast parts catalog and drop Fast Life 10 in all caps to save yourself 10% off the entire website. And don't forget to give these guys a follow on the gram at Arlenness Motorcycles. Now let's get back to the show.
So I ended up having to get a job right out of high school. Well, I had friends that worked at a conversion van place. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
You get the Good Times van type thing.
Yeah, what people don't know is that how popular that was back in the 80s and was it 70s too?
Oh yeah, 70s.
So that was kind of like one of the breeding grounds for custom painters back in the day.
Yeah, well,
you know.
So I went to work there, Scotch Brighton. That's what they gave me to do. Of course, I was with my friends, so it was cool.
Yeah.
I think it was $5 an hour, so pretty good money.
Not bad for that for early 90s.
Yeah, that was like 89 or 90.
Yeah.
So that wasn't enough. They were striping. They had striping tape, and they were laying them out. And like I said, I had somewhat of a small art background. Well, I wanted to do that too, so I moved into that part of it. Well, then I'd get them all laid out and have to stand around. So talk to the paint guy. Hey, man, can I put colors on them? So, of course, you show a little incentive.
Yeah.
The guy was like, sure. So I started painting them, masking them up, and then he would clear them. I did that for probably a year. And again, this wasn't my intention. This wasn't my career path still at this point. I didn't like it that much.
Yeah.
It was hot, it was shitty. Well, the van place ended up shutting down, so I moved and went to a accessories place, installing stereos and tent, all that stuff. The van place came back, so I went back, and this time I was kind of given free rein. So not only was I striping them and painting them, I got to learn to clear them. And we were using Kronar back then.
What is that based on?
It was DuPont.
DuPont, okay.
Yeah, it's the worst stuff ever. That's why you don't know what it is, because it left really quickly. It wouldn't hold on.
This was like transitional time between coming from lacquer into urethanes, right?
Yeah, the base coats weren't real common at the time. And what it was a converted enamel. So they still use the enamel tints, but they had converter-style binders and balancers, things like that. Mm-hmm. So anyway, learned to clear, learned to do those things. And they went out of business. That kind of ran its course. We were painting about 4 of those a day. Mm-hmm. We had a huge booth. You could put 3 or 4 in at a time. It was a pretty big operation. So after that, again, I was unemployed. Wasn't what I wanted to do, but I had a friend that said, "Hey, I need a body shop helper." Okay, it's $5.50 an hour. Sounds great. So I went through that and, again, showed incentive, determined to learn. He was a real cool dude, so he showed me everything. Mm-hmm. He left, so I was fortunate enough to step into the paint role. And at the same time, I was working at a tattoo shop. Mm-hmm. My son wasn't, he wasn't born yet.
This is all like 90?
90, 89, 90, 91, because he was born in 93, so this is that kind of 4-year. Anyway, the tattoo shop I worked at was a bike club tattoo shop, and they had bike parts everywhere. They were all, of course, old FXRs.
What were you doing at the tattoo shop?
I was a tattoo apprentice.
Okay, yeah.
I wanted to do it, give it a shot.
Yeah, use that art background for something.
Yeah. So the reason I ever got a tattoo, when I was a little kid, we'd go to the grocery store. You buy your parents' cigarettes back then.
Yeah.
You take your 60 cents up there. Well, they were always above the counter. Well, this dude was in front of me with the cutoffs and the net shirt. He's a badass. He reached up to grab the cigarettes, and he had a leg under his arm and down his thing, so his armpit hair looked like a beaver. I'm like 9 or 10. Like, I'm getting that. Whenever I'm going to get old enough, and I'm getting that. I don't have it, by the way.
Good.
Yeah, that was a bad choice.
It's a funny bar trick for once or twice, but
yeah,
it's creepy.
Yeah, and you have a kid, and you have to explain it. So anyway, but my girlfriend got pregnant, so I had to get out of the tattoo shop and stay with the body part. You know, it was necessity.
More consistent, probably.
It was consistent, yeah. And
tattoos at that time were still kind of a taboo, fringe kind of culture, counterculture.
Very
stuff.
riff-raffy.
Yeah,
yeah, very riff-raffy. But anyway, so I just stuck with the body stuff, and I really enjoyed it. You know, I started to, as I got better. You know, whenever you get better, your interest spikes a little bit. And then I worked at a couple body shops. I did a charger for a guy, and it was, I guess it was a good one. I really worked hard. One of the shops that did custom here in town, they're Sauncey Road Body Shop. He's been around a while.
that name sounds real familiar.
Yeah, we did a lot of bikes at this place.
Okay, so Sauncey Road, I remember that.
Yeah, Sauncey Road. So I started work there, and he had like a little Binks Wren single action airbrush, and he was doing some things, you know, but mainly it would just be like he'd do the tips of a flame or something, because he had done stuff before too at another shop. Well, then he ended up buying this one. So when I got there, it was, you know, I was painting production cars, but then he noticed that I could do the other things. So it kind of fell into letting John do it all the time, and which was great because I really liked doing that.
Yeah.
You know, it wasn't the typical color match and spray and the same old thing all the time. So, of course, the only thing it came with was there was no extra money and more hours. So it was really detrimental to me, but I was learning. You know, I had the incentive to go. So that's where the motorcycle thing really started for me.
So it was working at Sauncey Road?
Working at Sauncey Road, yeah.
Yeah. And yeah, I could see that. I mean, I think that when you're young, if you feel like you have like there's an opportunity for this to be something major, like being involved with it every day is like more important than another $1 an hour. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because it's like, okay, I did the same shit, man. My first shop, I worked for Other Side Customs, and I made $350 a week for the first 3 years I worked there. And how the hell I survived off of that, I have no clue. But it got to a point where I moved up to I started off as a sander, and 3 years later I was the lead airbrush artist there. You know what I mean? So, you know, I guess not focusing on money and just focusing on learning and absorbing all the other people around me, you know, just, and the fact that we got to do it every day. You know what I mean? Because it sounds like you did it every day.
I was psyched on it.
Yeah.
You know, that's what I want. I really wanted to learn. I wanted to do all of it. And then I wanted to show everybody there that I could be better.
Yeah.
You know, they wanted to do the same little basic stuff. Well, I want to do this. Well, I don't know that we could do that. I could do it. You know, or somebody would ask you, can you do this? I'd never done it.
People don't understand back then, like you'd see something in a magazine and you'd be sitting there dissecting it.
Hours
Trying to see, you know, you see what they did in the paint. You know, Ease Ride only had one good shot of the paint in the whole spread, right?
Yeah.
And you just dissect it and you try to reverse engineer the paint job, because there was no YouTube. Airbrush Action was out, that magazine, but you know, that was an all-encompassing airbrush magazine, not just like automotive custom paint.
You were going to do a T-shirt too.
Yeah, exactly. So
we did. Once he found out that we could not only do it but then be productive at it, we could turn stuff out. I'm going to guess I'd probably do 4 jobs a week.
Damn.
You know, and whether it was a flame job or, you know, at the time it wasn't as advanced like you see now. You had a kind of early 90s, it was some basic stuff, you know, ripping green ooze or drips or, you know, checkerboard
stuff.
Oh yeah, checkerboards. I could care less if I ever see another one. Water spot this, or we did the lacquer webbing, you know, on stuff. Then skulls. Everybody wants a skull.
Yeah.
And, when you don't know what you're doing, the path that I took to learn how to do that stuff, I learned about dual action airbrushes, which was way later in the game after we struggled with this little single action spitter, forever. You learn about reduction, there's a clear base that you could put stuff in, and oh my goodness, that's a game changer. House of Color, paint and pearls, so you didn't have to worry about trying to make something. They actually had something to start with.
Yeah.
So again, I don't know how many bikes we did at that place. It just was nonstop. But on top of that, I was also doing production cars, 4 or 5 cars a day.
Damn.
Is a lot. But I mean, I was so into it that I wouldn't leave there till 1:30, 2 in the morning. Every day. And then the weekends, it depends. If I was going to race BMX, I would go early in the mornings and then race BMX at night. Find that for extra.
Yeah.
By this time, my son was born, so I had to have money. When I didn't make a lot there either. You said $350 a week. That's probably about right. I remember every half, I think I'd bring home like $720.
Yeah.
A lot of hours, but then we were also doing custom cars, restorations, things like that, and a lot of those, a lot. And then SEMA came around. So we were doing like Budnick wheels. I did their truck. Billet Specialties, I did 2 vehicles for them. BF Goodrich. There was just so many of these. Troy Trepanier, the car guy, I did his father's car. And then plus all these other ones that you don't know who they are. And then sport trucks. And then we were building bikes. So he was all over the place out there.
Would you say at the time he was doing it right, or was he kind of just
no.
robbing Peter to pay Paul situation?
Well, so I don't think money was a problem for him. It wasn't like he had to make everything work.
Yeah.
I don't think. I could be talking out my ass, but they already had some money. So this was more of a. I think it was. We were all in our 20s. Him as well.
Yeah.
Which is Mark. Okay. But I don't think he was more interested in doing it and like the stature of it.
Okay.
Because he was into it too. He loved the cars, and so I don't think the making the money and all that was the top thing.
Yeah.
He wanted to get them done right. He wanted things to be nice, like that. So anyway, we did motorcycles. I don't know where they even came from half the time. Back then, the most camera you would have is maybe one of those little 110s that you push the thing over. And, I rarely took pictures of anything. He had some done. But we did tons and tons of Softails, whatever the popular thing was back then. But again, he was building bikes at the same time. And they did a great job. He ended up taking bikes to like the Makuni show. He won the Makuni show one year. Laughlin, he won at Laughlin. The National Roadster show. He had a bike place there. He was having some really nice ones.
Well, if he was building all those cars for those companies, usually those companies have somebody involved that's in the bikes too, and then those kind of like trickle down into bike builds as well as the car builds for SEMA.
Yep.
And that's early 90s, right?
It's probably 94, 5, 6.
Yeah, so you're at the beginning of the boom.
Yeah,
it
was. So the ones I remember at the start were somebody would have a Softail Custom or a Fat Boy.
Yeah.
And they would start putting the things out. I think Harley Davidson and Marlboro Man had just kind of come out.
Yeah, that, or it was
92.
Schwarzenegger with Terminator 2 on the Fat Boy. So.
Yeah. But people were coming in. I don't know how many of those paint jobs, the bare metal ones, I've done over the years. People, which I think is cool still. So, then, like I said, they were building bikes as well, which in turn he started bringing in some fabricators, mechanic style guys. We really did a lot of stuff there.
Because I remember the name Sauncey Road, and then it was crazy when I was riding in here. I saw the sign for Sauncey Road, and I was like, I know that. And then you bring it up here, I was like, oh shit, I didn't know that was based out of Amarillo up here. So
Yep. So he was friends with a guy from Portales in New Mexico, and he owned a business called PTS, Price's Truck Stop. Well, we had done a few trucks for him. Well, I don't know how, and I could, again, this may be not correct, but I'm going to say it anyway. He ended up opening a bike company in Phoenix. We built 3 bikes for him. We built a blower bike. We built wasn't a Pro Street, well, kind of like a Pro Street Softail at the time, and then another just kind of a spec bike. Anyway, he ended up selling out to Jim Nassy.
okay.
So we built Nassy's first bikes, like the first 4 out there. And then Nassy changed the name from PTS to Jim Nassy Customs. And
That's cool.
It's
And
gone
he's
on.
still going strong today, I believe.
Yeah. He's going nuts. Anyway, I was out there for a little over 7 years, and my son was getting a little older, and I wasn't home. He was starting to do sports and things like this, and to be honest, I was just tired of being out there constantly. Plus the money. I'd like to make a little more money.
Yeah.
You can like something, but you still want to get paid.
Yeah.
So anyway, I ended up taking a job at this body shop where I'm at now again. And when I got there, all of a sudden they want to do bikes and cars. Like, oh my goodness, I thought this was just going to be painting and going
Do you think
home.
that they probably saw because you had that experience there, you could bring that money there?
Yeah, I
The
think.
same shit happened to me when I was coming up. It's like I'd go to work at a body shop, and they'd immediately start trying to load me up with custom paint work, flames, real fire, that kind of
Yeah.
shit back in the day,
Yep. So, of course, I liked doing it. I thought, well, it'll be different this time, which it was because they left everything up to me. If you want to do this, fine, do what you want. But they did bring in lots of restorations and custom cars, which at the time we were still a bit busy, 4, 5, 6 cars a day.
Yeah.
And then after hours. So then I had customers follow me. We did a lot of work for Covington at Soncy. We did his first bike there. I still remember it. It was marbleized. So anyway,
Oh, the paintwork and stuff.
the paintwork, yeah. It was candy marble. So he got a hold of me, and because he had gone to Mark's and there was nobody there that could do it anymore.
Yeah.
So he came to me over at the shop, and I started doing his again. And this is in probably 2000.
Yeah.
So I started doing his, and of course, this turned right back into leaving here at, all hours of the night type thing. And so I ended up doing that for another 6 years. Again, the SEMA stuff followed me.
Yeah.
I ended up falling into a deal doing cars I did some Ford in the big booth at Ford, and then I met a guy named Rick Dorr. He's a California guy. He's in the Hot Rod Hall of Fame. He does ridiculous custom cars. Well, he ended up starting feeding me some cars. I did a pickup, and then I did a 27 T Roadster for him. And I ended up changing jobs again. The boss's son and I we didn't like each other. So I went to Bell Helicopter. For some reason, I'm going to just switch it all up again. And I end up at Bell Helicopter painting V-22 Ospreys, H1 Hueys, and stuff like that. At the same time, had my own house doing motorcycles, cars. So it never really slowed down. Every choice I made, it just ended up right back into the same thing.
Yeah, it's like a funnel, a pit, if you will. So what was it like, were you just focusing on paint? Did you ever get into much of the building yourself at all?
So I did. I built several bikes for myself. We did a few customer bikes. One of them won the McCooney show one year for a guy. And then I did, like I said, a few just for myself. I did one for my brother-in-law. Like I said, I can do the fab and the welding. I learned all that along the way over the years.
Yeah.
It's not what I specialize in. I mean, to be honest, of anything, I'm probably better at body work than any of it. If if you want me to get your car straight, I'm better at that than I am probably painting your car.
Yeah.
To me, in my opinion,
I tell people all the time, if you want me to, I'm not that great of a painter, right? Like I can paint a bike, but if you ask me to go paint a hood of a car silver, I look like some kid in high school trying to paint that. Like I don't paint big surfaces. And I think the last time I painted a car was probably 13 years ago.
Oh,
you
wow.
know? So I've been strictly motorcycles for pretty much like since 2007, I believe.
Oh, wow.
So,
Well, that's great, though.
yeah, I mean, it's just like you said, it comes with its ups and downs, right? Yeah. There's lots of, I've been telling people forever, it's like I'd probably say in the last 6 years started making adult money. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like the kind of money you expect to make as a 30-year-old, that's been doing something for 15 years.
I'm still on my way.
Yeah,
I'm 53. I'm trying.
I'm 10 years behind every age I am, basically, what I should be making. But like you said, there's kind of like this. If I never saw motorcycles again, it'd be easier to walk away from things like paint and all that stuff, right? But because I love motorcycles, I'm always going to be close to something that I know how to do. And anytime I see something else that I think looks good, it's going to draw me back in to want to top it. Not in a nasty ego way, but like a competitive nature way, you know?
That's healthy.
Yeah.
That's a healthy thing.
So it's like, I've been telling people for years, I even mentioned to you earlier, it's like I don't really want to paint on a higher, which I paint on a very small scale now, but I want to paint on less of a scale,
Yeah.
Maybe one helmet a month kind of thing. And then still have time to be able to work on certain bikes if they come along. That's something I really want to do. But I guess the older that I've got, the more that I just want to be able to have complete autonomy on what I want to do and not feel like I have to do it for rent or bills or owing somebody something. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
Thundermax is and has been my go-to for my fuel-injected Harleys since 2015. The T-Max module is designed to provide your fuel-injected Harley with proprietary auto-tune technology, allowing you the ability to add future performance upgrades to your motorcycle without having to go to a dyno for tuning. These tuners are worth their weight in gold. Head on over to thunder-max.com to get yourself dialed in with the T-Max tuner and drop the Fast Life offer code, which will save you 10% on your purchase, and give my guys a follow on the gram at thundermaxefi. Now let's get back to the show.
yeah,
Yeah, so when you have a schedule and you want to do your best, the schedule doesn't allow that.
Yeah.
You get it as good as you can, but it wasn't 100% what you wanted to do. Mm-hmm. That discourages you,
Who you telling, man? I just literally got off of one of the craziest months of my life, like full 6 weeks. Painted 3 bikes, that one right there being included. Went to Covington's, painted 2 motorcycles up there. Had an anniversary with my wife. Had my son for 10 days. It's been nonstop. You know what I mean? And so even like, I was dreading the fact that I thought I might have to cancel this because I didn't know if I was going to be able to leave today.
Oh, wow.
Because if you would have asked me yesterday morning, I would have probably said, all right, I need to text John and say, hey, look, I'm not going to be able to make it. But I was like, I got to the shop and like, I started kind of plugging away. And I was like, you know what? I think I can meet my deadline and get out of here because the goal was to leave here today, Tuesday or Thursday by noon. And I was able to make it happen. So, because otherwise I would have just stayed on I-20 and went out west and just tried to beeline it to Phoenix, get as close as I can Friday so I can make it into Phoenix on Saturday. But yeah, it wasn't going too well.
It's fortunate it worked out.
Yeah, it worked out. I wanted to do this. I wanted to meet you. You reached out during the FXR Tour stuff and being friends with Joe Kidd and Wood Grain and all those guys. Your name comes up every time we talk. So,
Oh, yeah.
Which you've done them a solid over the years.
Yeah, those guys are great. Yeah, like I told you earlier, when I had a friend that was telling me they broke down in Tucumcari. And by the way, it's Tucumcari.
Okay.
He says Tucumcari, and
I
that
say
shit drives me
Tucumcari.
nuts.
I do. My bad.
But that's okay. My dad had to tell me a story years ago that how it got its name.
Uh-huh.
If you've been through there, there's a big mountain, and
Okay.
it has the rocks with the T on it.
Okay, yeah.
Next time you go through, check it out.
Yeah.
Well, the chief was up there moving rocks, and they got one that was, really big, and he said that it was heavy. 2 come carry. So here's my terrible little racial. But when you're 6, it sounded right. I've told that story, believing it my whole life. So when I hear Tucumcari, I can't take that.
But it's actually pronounced Tucumcari?
Tucumcari.
Okay,
Yeah.
Well, I mean, that'll help you remember it. It's like some of us had to sing our ABCs to remember it too.
Yeah. I still do sometimes figure out where I'm at.
But yeah, that what got you into like FXRs and stuff like that?
Well, honestly, when I worked at the tattoo shop, that's what those guys had.
Oh, back in the early 90s?
Yeah,
Oh,
early 90s they had, like they were pretty new, probably, 90 model.
Yeah.
Newer, not and they would take them out to the drags, and they were like the fast ones, and they would always tell me, "Oh, these are the fast Harleys."
Yeah.
Like, "Oh, well, I like that." And of course, they all had custom paint jobs on them. The flames and things like that. And if through the cars, I knew about flames. I liked that. So anyway, that's where I started liking those. But I never had any money to get anything.
Yeah.
Like I said, $700 every 2 weeks. You're buying formula and stuff. So I ended up. I've had tons of different bikes over the years now, but it was mostly choppers. When we got into it, like I said, in the early 90s, choppers came back. The Jesse James show came out and things like that. And the pro street bikes, 180 tires, not the big ridiculous ones.
Yeah.
So being around that all the time, that's what you kind of stayed in that wheelhouse. So and people weren't really doing anything with the FXRs. Guys here in town would buy the police bikes when they were done. They'd throw all the stuff that was on them away, and try to make a like a soft tail looking bike out of it.
Yeah.
Tail dragger fenders, and like I said, the 90s were weird. I ended up with the one I have. Just this bike was actually the one I have here. It's a 92 Kenny Boyce, just a custom. The original guy that built it is the service manager at Trips.
Okay.
Trips Harley Davidson, Rick Preble. We painted that bike when I was at Sauncey Road, and it had a rock and purple ribbon and green ooze all over it. It was a peach, man. Anyway, through the years, it bounced around town, and I bet I painted that thing 6 or 7 times for different people. So I ended up buying it. I gave $2,000 for it.
Serious?
Yeah.
Damn.
Poor guy, he needed some money. So I bought it. It had a Merch engine in it, a big bore engine. I rode it around a little bit and decided that wasn't going to work out for me. So I ended up giving it to a friend. I said, I'll let you have this engine if you'll put a stock one in it and blow it apart so I could paint it and put it all back together. So that's what we did.
Oh, that's cool.
So that's how I ended up with that. But we did, at Sauncey Road, we did a lot of FXRs as well. Of course, they were, different time. They were very 90s.
Well, the FXRs had their pro street vibe as well, I feel like a lot of the Kenny Boys look originally was kind of in that more wheelhouse, I guess.
Yeah, it was a race. They were built to race originally. I've got to meet him several times in Laughlin. We would go to Laughlin every
Where's
year.
Where's he out of?
California, I guess. It was funny. A lot of these guys that are big now, when you would go to Laughlin, they would have their midways of all the vendors.
Yeah.
But then you would find the guys like Kenny Boyce who just sit up in the parking lot, and he would get 4 or 5 parking spots and put his bikes out and give cards. He'd have a card table or something.
Yeah.
Even like Matt Hotch started that way. A lot of those guys. But yeah, he always had something great. I've got drawers and drawers full of pictures, because that's what I would do when we'd get to go. I didn't have a bike of my own to ride around, which you didn't want to ride at those things anyway. Yeah. But I would go and take pictures of everything,
Well, yeah, back in the day, I did the same thing. I'd go to car shows and unload like 3 or 4 disposable cameras on it.
Oh, yeah.
Just trying to, because I would take pictures of paint to try to go back, and I go to lowrider shows a lot. That's what I did early on, and try to come back with some ideas of how to, do it, So that's kind of was the only place you could see some stuff other than a magazine.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Because you didn't see too many at that point.
That's why I think that when all the TV show stuff happened, it really put it in the TV show is what put it in my eyes, like Monster Garage and Jesse's Motorcycle Mania. Those shows showed me that there's something cool in paint and body, because the paint and body shop that I grew up in was just collision.
Yeah.
It was boring.
Yeah.
I didn't want to do it, just like you said. So that kind of like opened my eyes, and then I was like, well, shit, I know how to do all this stuff. I was forced to learn how to do it, Now I'm ready to take on these new, projects and stuff like that. So, and I learned quick too. I was like, I got that job in January of 2004, and then I did my first all by myself custom paint job probably like 4 months later, graphics and all. So I knew how to paint. But the graphics thing, that I was in love with that. But it was like old school shit, right?
Yeah.
Didn't know how to pinstripe, so what did we do? We
Taped it off.
Well, no, we would do the slash striping.
Oh yeah, slat. Yeah. Oh boy.
That way you can get away with like not being a good pinstriper.
It's true. It's true. There was a lot of that.
And I taped off all my flames and stuff like that back in the day. So I'm still not that great of a striper today, but it's one of those things that all my friends that are stripers, like Jeremy at Lucky Strike and Monty Roach, I always tell them, like, I know how to get good at it if I just every day go out there and spend 30 minutes a day pulling some lines. Over the course of 3 or 4 months, I'm going to be, way better at doing designs with pinstriping.
Yeah.
Right now, I got to draw it out and then transfer it and then trace it, kind of shit. And I know if I just do that for about a year, that I'll be in that point, because I have enough experience pinstriping. I understand how to hold a brush. I'm just not familiar with all the different, things to do in the pinstripe design.
And you can't screw it up.
Yeah.
That's the beauty of it. You can't screw it up. So we had a guy that would come in at Sauncey on occasion, and he would stripe. He was a local sign guy here. And I would have to go in and true up all the tips.
Okay, yeah.
So I still had to do work, and he would charge. But he was a super nice guy. We ended up becoming great friends. But he would never show me nothing. I'm not sure if maybe even in the early 2000s like that, people were a little more forthcoming with information. But in the 90s, nobody was. For instance, the pinstriping, he wouldn't tell me how to thin it. He didn't tell me about a brush. I had a green ferrule Mac touch-up brush.
Yeah.
And I'm trying really hard, and it was never working out. Throw it away. Dig it back out. Well, then all of a sudden, he left his box open one day. And we started to become friends, and he's like, look, this is how you trim one. Here's what you do. And he just kind of gave me a little quick talking lesson. And there it was. Again, like you said, I wanted to learn it, so I sat down and started.
See, what you just said right there is what I try to tell a lot of people, is that if you try it, though, you'll figure out the questions you need to ask. If you didn't try that at all, that information would be useless to you.
Right.
You know what I mean? And that's one thing I get that a lot, people asking like the most broad question about how to do something. And it shows me they haven't tried it yet. So they're not asking me a question I can actually help them with.
And the great feeling it is when it finally clicks.
Oh, yeah.
I'm sure you, like I said,
many times.
How to go around the inside corner. You struggle, it flips, and then all of a sudden, boom, there it goes.
Yeah.
And it's like I mentioned earlier, if you stand on the edge of the diving board, you stand there forever. Oh, I don't want to do it. You walk off. It's scary. Kind of the same feeling. Once you did it, it's like, God, that wasn't that big of a deal.
Yeah.
But it just took time.
Dude, Leaf for me was like a 8-year process to get to the point where I was efficient at it. And I still have my struggles here and there, but man, I remember doing that stuff, and like I knew everything that I knew how to do 8 years ago is exactly how I do it now, but something in the middle, it's like it just got more familiar. I got more used to the way it's supposed to feel, and it started working out.
You're gonna laugh at me. So in the 90s, nobody was doing it. Mm-hmm. I had to do it. There was a job that had come in. I had to do it. Can you do this? Of course. Here we go again. Yes.
Yeah.
I can't do this. So how I got started, the only type of place to get anything back then, there was no really internet. I think there was internet, but it wasn't, like what we have now.
Yeah.
I would go to Michael's.
Yeah.
And they would have the Mona Lisa
Yep.
leaf. So I would buy the aerosol, Mona Lisa aerosol fixative, the sizing. Yeah, excuse me. And I tried to spray it out of the can. Well, that doesn't work. So I ended up spraying it in my airbrush, slow reducing it. And still to this day, I've always sprayed my size because it goes on smooth, no brush marks. And that's what I would do. I would spray it, like you said, find your proper dry time and put the leaf down. Well, I didn't realize this is not really real gold leaf. I didn't know at the time. It was imitation. So I'm trying the velvet tricks. I'm doing everything. And this is probably 94. Nothing's working. So I ended up, a guy in Phoenix, he was coming through and he'd stopped at the shop. He showed me to use a blue towel, and it did okay. Yeah. You know, well, we were doing custom cars for a man in Houston, and we had a guy come through that was doing kind of what they do, like they call it paint correction now. Yeah. He would go through with these ultra fine grits. Well, Trizac hadn't been invented yet. It didn't come out until maybe 97. But we had another stuff called, and I'll show you, it's called Bufflex. It's a sticky paper, so it's real fine, 5,000. Well, I would cut it in little 1-inch squares and stick it to my thumb and spin it with my thumb. It looks great. I mean, that's pretty much how I still do it to this day. Yeah. Well, this was in 94. Damn. Or so. But I'm using hobby store stuff. And I mean, some of it's still sticking, so we'll call it good. Before I'd even learned about what the sizing was, or there was no VHS tapes or anything back then. And then in the early 2000s, I bought a tape off one of the airbrush places had a tape. Gary Jensen. Yep. Remember that one?
Yep, I had it. That's the one I learned from.
Yeah, so I'm watching him, and I'm like, well, geez, you mean there's real gold, you learn about all these products. And of course, other than the sizing, I've continued with my method, like you were saying, from 8 years ago, you're doing it the same way. Other than a better product, I do it the same.
Yeah. Well, when I learned about the gold leaf stuff, there's places to get like real gold, like it's some Italian name, Gino Manelli or something like that. And I would order it from this place called Sep Leaf in New York. And I had to order it. Every time I'd order it, it sucks because I had to place a $200 order to get something. And I'm like, well, shit, how much is leaf? And then, it's like $60 a booklet. And then you're doing a bagger. This is like early, like 2012. I was still trying to learn how to do this stuff. And you literally have $300, $400, $500 in gold leaf, like actual gold on these bikes. And, I'd have the little velvet tool that Coast Airbrush would sell. And I just never quite got good at it, and I tried to stay away from it. And then, as somebody that grew up airbrushing, when this industry turned to more panels and leaf and more of a pinstriper's place, I was like, fuck, man, like, how am I supposed to, do what I'm, how am I supposed to use like my one talent that sets me apart from other people? So I realized then I had to like really dive into this gold leaf thing and get it dialed. Yep. So
I did
put your phone away from the...
Oh, excuse me.
It like picks up the signal.
Oh, all right. Sorry. The same way with the airbrush. I never did like, the freehand style airbrush. Well, all of a sudden somebody asked for it. So here same story. I guess I better learn. Yeah. Well, there's nobody to teach you. So, the way I was figuring it out, I was laying out tape, drawing a design on there, peeling it off, going in and filling it in. Yeah. I didn't know about layering or any of those type of things. I ended up, what I did? In probably 2003 or 4, I went to a class with Mike Learn. You know Mike?
Yeah, good friend.
Yeah, we're buddies. He is like the coolest guy. I showed him my spinning trick, and I think that's probably still how Mike does it. But he did this, it was like a 3-day class. It was relatively cheap. But I learned more in 3 days with him. Yeah. Of course, he had like the first day he would do the basic airbrush things, and then he would do Corel. He was a Corel guy, so and a Roland for the printer. And then the last day it was more advanced. Yeah. But I learned more in 3 days with that guy than I probably had the whole time of farting with it.
He was. For me, he was very, very key for my growth as well. And when he put together the learnairbrush.com, and there was a whole community, like a chat thing in there that I was in, and he brought together like Ron Fuchs, which was one of my favorite skull and dragon guys. And that him and everything that he did was very vital to my growth. And he still, last time I talked to him was at SEMA. He was on the podcast a couple years back. Yeah. Just what an awesome dude. That dude going from Phoenix and then moving to Boulder and building guitars, like just living the dream, doing his thing, you know.
We met each other through NASI. I had done another bike for NASI themselves, and I put the Sansi Road logo on it. Well, that was a no-no. So he had Mike take it off.
Yeah.
So Mike calls me, hey man, what's the paint code? I was like, okay, of course. And of course I ended up meeting Crash first.
Yeah.
Crash.
I never met him, but I know about him.
He's something. I was in Phoenix. My brother-in-law was living in Phoenix, and we were at a bar one night, and Crash was the bouncer.
Okay.
So that's my brother-in-law knew Crash. He'd come into the place where he worked, and so we met through that. And of course, for years, I thought Crash was the one doing the airbrushing. Crash was more of the painter and the stripe guy. And he was at the class too. He was awesome.
Yeah, what they had going on down there was badass. All his videos was cool. I had bought the whole belly guns thing that he used to do with the the Corel Draw, because I learned how to do the sign program work too. Like, I feel like when I came up into this, you had to do everything. You know,
I believe it. Yeah.
Because I worked at a custom motorcycle paint shop, and every day it was not the same day of paint jobs. Like what I do now, I stay within I stay in the same sport, right? Of stuff.
Yeah.
Back then, we were playing every sport known to man in a week. One day, we're doing 40 logos for, back in the chopper days. You remember, like these companies, like Rick Fairless, which is who it was for, would go out, and they had a PR person, would go out and reach out to, like SSI. I saw they had a building down the street. These big corporations say, we can build you a bike for your marketing, and you can write it all off. And next thing you know, I'm having to recreate these companies' logos in vinyl, to be able to pull it off in a paint job. And man, I learned how to do all that stuff back in the day. And I still to this day, I'm like, how did I do that? I'm not saying like it's unobtainable. How did I do that? But just like, how did I have the care to want to do that? Because right now I don't want to.
Yeah.
Like, I take for granted all that shit now, but
you know how to do it now.
Yeah,
too.
exactly. So
when you don't know how, the desire is a little bit deeper.
Oh yeah, it really is. And I mean, yeah, it was just, you had mentioned something earlier about like how cutthroat it was back then. It was.
Oh, it's terrible.
It was like if you didn't live in the same city, you were okay. But if you lived in Dallas, we were just enemies. And that's how the shop that I worked for carried themselves. And so by proxy, when I first got into this, I was that way as well. Until I got known on the motorcycle set, if you will. Like, that sounds kind of gangster, but you just hanging out, going to places where on other bikes, they started knowing me as a painter. Well, I wasn't like, I was a 160-pound dude. I'm not trying to go out there and be like, fuck that painter over there.
Right.
So I'm like, yeah, dude, it's whatever, man. Yeah, I work at the other side, but he just didn't want anybody sharing the secrets that we know or how we prep things or whatever the case may be. And I get it, but I'll tell you what, since getting off of that and being more open with painters, I feel like our whole industry's grown times 10 within 10 years.
And the work is still there.
Yeah.
It's not like you're not getting any work anymore. Mike was just instrumental in that, doing his classes. He's like, there's plenty of work for everybody. Because where I was at prior to doing my own thing, it was just like you said with your shop. Fuck that guy. Excuse me. My wife will get mad if I say bad words.
It's okay.
But yeah, it was always, well, that sucks, or look what he, nitpicking somebody, dude, that's exhausting.
Yeah.
If the design is good, I don't care if it has some things wrong with it. I'm not gonna be ugly to somebody about that.
Well, that's how it was. When I left working for that guy, which I have a lot of respect for him still this day, and would love to have him on the podcast, even though he acts like I, killed one of his kids or something. You know what I mean? I spent my early career with everybody in Dallas that could have been a viable customer only knowing me for my flaws, because he has such a bigger name, talks so much shit about me, that nobody looked at.
They were looking for it.
They just, oh, Jace painted that. Man, there's got to be something wrong with this. So instead of appreciating what it was, they looked for the flaws. So, and I'm not saying that I don't have flaws now, but all that did was make me 10 times better than him. You know what I mean? Because nowadays, like, I can show you every flaw on that bike, and I can show you, you know, and you could probably, you know, you'll find them, you know, but compared to what most people see, like, there's very little.
Yeah.
Maybe
that's
a little
the difference in somebody that's been doing it 30 years
Yeah.
and then just somebody, you know.
Dude, I see people that's been doing it for 30 years too that just don't give a shit anymore.
Yeah, and
You know?
I always look at it and think, man, you should have done better. But then again, I don't know how much they paid. I don't know their time. See, that was back to our earlier, we're talking about, I got 3 days to do this thing.
Yeah.
How nice can it be in 3 days? I mean, you could try hard and you can, you know, maybe condense your stuff and do the best you can.
Yeah.
It may not be what you wanted, but I mean, that's what you got.
That's one of the things that I tell people all the time nowadays about, like, when you put your name on something, it doesn't matter what the parameters are before. If they can't meet your standard and you don't need this to pay the rent, then don't fucking do it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I don't. I'm over here hustling license plates on occasion just to do stuff. Yeah, you're exactly right, and it's hard to get it through your head.
Yeah.
To, you know, well, I need this quick. Well, you want to do it, and maybe sometimes it's a friend or whatever, because you're never there to explain, you know, what the expectation was. No.
Yeah, no one's ever going to say, oh, well, I got the this is the economy version of the paint job that Stromberg offers, right? They're going to say John Stromberg painted that, and, you know, with no other context as to why there might be a flaw in it, right?
Yeah, like there's levels.
Yeah.
You know, you got a number 1, 2, or 3.
Yeah, no one's going to say they paid for number 1. You know what I mean?
No.
It's like, hell, most people buy the cheapest car and then put the best emblems on it. You know what I mean?
It's true. Yeah.
So it's you know, like, once I realized that, I was like, well, you know, and then obviously once I got to a point where I didn't, you know, it wasn't going to kill me if I didn't take the job in, you know, being able to say no or control the narrative and say, look, I just can't do it. I mean, me and my friends that paint talk about this every year, because every January people start thinking about wanting to build a bike for Daytona. And I'm like, dude, you're 4 months too late.
Yes.
This should have been a decision you made in November or September, in between there.
And they don't think about being in line.
Yeah.
That's to me is the worst. Well, can you do it? I can. How long will it take you? Well, I mean, shouldn't take me long, but you're 10 positions behind.
Yeah.
You know, that might be the beginning of next year before I can even think about bringing it in.
Yeah.
Oh, well, he takes too long. Well, he doesn't take too long. You're just at the back of the line.
Yeah. It's just not. Yeah. So I was like,
It never gets dictated that way. It never gets explained that way.
They think that you're just sitting here with your part. So that's why I try not to take in jobs either. And so, like, I'll take a deposit, like a $500 deposit to hold a spot. And to be honest with you, I've made probably $3 or $4 grand in the last 3 years of people deciding they didn't want it afterwards. You know, because I'll be like,
idea.
I'm like, look, it's $500 to hold a spot, right? And if you don't come through, that money's gone, because now you just wasted my fucking time. Because I had a spot for you to paint your bike, and now I got to fill it with something else. And it's harder to find someone that's willing to go right then and fill a spot versus as it is like the 3 ones you just turned down 2 weeks before because you were supposed to show up.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So whenever the spot comes up, then their bike ends up only being in my position for between 2 to 4 weeks, right? Depending on how intensive the project is. But like I never take if they hit me up in September and we're doing it in January, drop it off in January. Go ride your bike, go have fun on it. And if you decide later on you don't want a paint job anymore, then you're only $500 invested in this, you know. And if you were going to pay 10 grand, what's $500?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I think it's communication. I think I've seen a lot of painters I've talked to, we've just come from a feast or famine kind of mentality with this stuff, because we do offer a luxury and you never know when it's going to go away. So it's like, hoard it in, you know?
I think that's one of my reasons that I've always had the normal job. You know, this has never been my main income. It's always a side hustle.
Yeah.
You know, you got a gajillion side hustles sometimes. But I always kept that, you know, this is money. When I had kids, that was was way different. You know,
Yeah.
it's like all of a sudden we have a kid. Well, I'd love to tattoo. I would, but I can't. I would love to. I mean, I guess I could.
Just time away.
It was time away, yeah, and being an
You don't want to bring
apprentice-
it home.
Yeah, and it was pretty wild. You know, it's probably time to slow down a little bit and do kid stuff, or you do your body shop job.
Yeah.
You know, it's pretty easy. You know, money's going to be there. It's pretty consistent. Had I done just motorcycles, like you said, the feast or famine mentality, especially around here. You know, we have 250,000 people here. And then you end up all being friends. So, of course, I have the problem. My friends, most times I don't charge them, or they get a super deal.
Yeah.
Which I could quit being your friend. We quit being friends. But then, like I said, I can't count on that all the time. So I just put it in my head that I was going to have the 9 to 5-er,
Yeah.
and then do extra. You know, because you live to your means. So that extra was the only way I did anything. You know, the job, the body shop job paid the bills. We lived up to all that money. So anything extra came from the side gig.
Yeah.
In which, over time, I think I would have probably charged and done things differently if it was my job.
Oh yeah.
You know, looking back, listening to you tell about prices and stuff, Jesus.
I mean, it becomes like, you know, if you've been doing something for 20 years, you want to raise, right?
Yeah.
And, you know, the paint companies that sell those products get a raise every year. You know,
That's right.
they charge you 10% more for those products. And it's not one product, it's every product. All 150 little items you got to buy to do a custom paint job or a paint job. Those all go up every year. And so, like, if you charge what you charge to paint a bike in 2014 right now.
With over 20 years in business, Custom Dynamics has built the largest product selection in the motorcycle lighting game. Superior lighting products supported by top quality customer service, all backed by lifetime warranties. I'm currently running Custom Dynamics all around on my Lowrider ST. Head on over to CustomDynamics.com where they have solutions for both early and late model motorcycles, and give them a follow on the gram at Custom Dynamics.
You know, your cost to paint that bike could be triple or quadruple the amount of money. So if your price is the same, how come the whole world is able to get a cost of living raise, but you're supposed to stay the same as you've always been? You know,
That's right.
even though you've gotten better, you've gotten, you know, the way I look at it is if there's a demand for my work, then I get to make my price competitive with the people that are in that field of skill level with me. I'm not trying to undercut anybody, and I don't want someone to come to me because I'm cheaper. I want someone to come to me because they want my work, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I can't paint 20 baggers a year. So I'd rather, instead of charging $5,000 to paint a bagger, I'd rather charge $10,000 and paint 4 of them a year.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Of course, I probably shouldn't say it, but I'm going to. I have never gotten over $3,000 to $4,000 for a paint job in my career. And I've been doing it since '92.
You got to look them in the eye. Just tell them.
I mean, no kidding. And then with their unrealistic schedules
Yeah.
and things, all that should come with an added bonus.
Yeah.
When I was over at the shop that I was at, when they let me do stuff there, they made me a good deal. Of course, when I was at Sonsi, I was just making my paint money. It was a salary.
Yeah.
You know, there was no extra for whatever I did. But when I went to the other shop, I'll give you half. You can have half of everything you bring in. Okay, well, that sounds good. I make everybody pay cash. Well, depending on who you did it for, of course, I'll show my ignorance again. I'm doing a frame, swing arm, tank, oil tank, fenders, full graphic, candy, you know, $1,800. Whew. And then I get half. Does that, you know, it seems like good because it's money that, you know, you're not thinking about. It's like it's extra.
Yeah.
Well, that's still pretty good. Well, it's not. And I did that for, 7-8 years.
Someone offered me that once to get half, and then we split materials. And I was like, well, fuck, man. So I bring the work in, do all the work, You get half just for the facility, and I got to split materials with you. Like,
See, I didn't split materials. Not that it makes it better.
Yeah,
You know.
yeah.
But it just that's how it was.
well, man, like I think that custom paint. Okay, let me tell you why I got to the point and confident with raising my prices. Because for 10 years, I painted bikes for shops that would Jew me down to sorry for the semantics, but Jew me down to $3,000 to paint a full bagger. This is big wheel bagger days. And then turn around and sell it to the customer for $10,000. So they were getting $3,000 paint jobs and selling them for 10.
And upselling it.
And upselling it, right? Which I understood that people would upsell stuff. Usually it's 20%. You know, if I paint your bagger for $3,000, but you got it through the shop, they're charging 20%, so you're paying $3,600.
And I encourage that. That
Yeah.
seems like a reasonable, it's no different than us buying
Yeah,
parts at a
exactly.
shop and marketing it. Sure.
But when they're making double what I'm charging to do it, and when I'm asking for more money, they say they don't have it. I mean, that was like almost every bike shop that I painted for did that to me, you know. And then what changed was when Instagram came out, because now those people could come to me directly, or they could find me directly, and then they would know that I was painting the bike. So then they'd start communicating with me and goes, man, I've never spent 10 grand on a bike and I'm really excited for you to do this. And that's how I would find out.
Oh, wow.
And so then when I confronted the shops, and those shops are all out of business now, but it's like, I know that there was people making that kind of money and why should I not try to make that money? I don't know. I feel like I'm not trying to rape anybody, and I'm not trying to screw anybody over, but if there's people out there, especially the people that I know that charge every painter that I know that's like Jeremy, Lucky Strike, Poland Designs, you're not getting a bagger from them for less than 10 grand. You know what I mean? That's where it's starting.
Wow. And they're great.
Yeah.
Those guys are great. I mean, I would.
You remember Matt Hodge paying $20,000 for a flame job on a chopper?
I don't.
He did it on Discovery Channel. It might have been inflated, but
I don't remember watching it. Wow. Because I knew the guys that did that. Actually, the guys that did that are Lucky 7.
For real.
Totally opposite of me, but the California guys.
Yeah,
They did that. Wow. I wonder if that was true or if it was for TV.
Probably a little bit inflated, but about how much,
Well, I did the biker build off for Jerry and him, and I did it in 2 days.
Damn.
Candy green, full candy. I got there, it wasn't ready. So
Was Dusty up there working with them at the time?
Yeah,
Nice.
Dusty. I miss him. He's a good dude. I have some great stories about Dusty. We would go places and we'd always take Dusty out with us. But anyway, I'd get there and to do that thing, and of course that was free.
Yeah.
Yeah, I get that, the television thing, but it didn't do me no good.
Yeah.
I didn't even get my name said on TV. It was, but I got to go on the ride, which is, I've never been anywhere I liked as much as the places we went.
Yeah,
really great.
That's the same thing. When I worked for Other Side Customs, they were on TV for the Rick Fairless, Matt Hodge build. Mm-hmm. Same thing. We no TV exposure. I mean, no.
And that's fine.
They got TV exposure. I'm sorry, we didn't get paid for it. So, we painted that thing in a weekend.
Well, I went and did that bike 2 days after my daughter was born.
Oh shit.
So I got my wife home, and then the next morning I left.
Yeah.
And it's Oklahoma, so it's hot, hot. So I ended up, like I said, I did it got there one day, spent that day, and then the next day it was done. And then after I cleared it, Dusty, he continued on with buffing it and stuff like that.
Nice.
God, I miss him. I haven't thought about him in a while.
I've only met him like once up there, but because he works in the oil field, I think now.
Yeah.
So, but me and Dave go out to the bar every other night.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Dusty shouldn't drink. We were in Vegas. We went for the Vegas Bike Fest one year, and we all took bikes. I had a couple that we had built when I was here, and they'd had theirs too. And Dusty and a couple of he had a bunch of young kids working for him. We went out and we ended up at Coyote Ugly there.
On Fremont Street over there? Isn't it right there in Old Town?
I think so. I don't remember
where
where
it
it was.
I don't know.
No, it was in New York.
Okay.
Well, they had this thing where they put your head back and pour the liquor in your mouth and then sit you up. Every time I looked up, his head is back, man. They are pouring, and he's having a great time. Well, I lost him. My brother-in-law and I, we left, and the next morning they couldn't find Dusty. He was in his room. It was bad. I guess Dave had found him passed out at the valet.
Oh shit!
Didn't know his room. Dave had to carry him through the casino up to the room. At like 5 a.m. So he'd had a great time.
Yeah.
I miss that guy.
No, it's fun. I love going up there to work with those guys, and for me, it's awesome because it's just being in that shop, and every bike that they build is cool, and they trust me to kind of have a little bit of freedom to customize it the way I do it, and it's just a good time. And sitting there, I stay at Kathleen and Jerry's house whenever I go up there, so I go out to dinner with them, and I hear all these stories from the early days, and it's just kind of like just fun to be able to be around someone that's had so much involvement in the motorcycle custom industry for so long. You know what I mean? Because like I said, down in Dallas, we don't, we got Fairless. He's there, but he's like buddy with the old shop that I used to work at that I told you about.
Yeah.
And me and Rick are good, but there's still that mentality down there of like that cutthroat stuff. I've never wanted to paint a bike for Rick or anything. Once I left, that shop, it's just, I don't know. That's all I was saying. It's hard to break away from what the town that you grew up in knows you as. And so like Rick and all those people that I grew up in this custom paint motorcycle industry, they don't see me as the podcast guy or the Fast Life Garage paint jobs, all this. They see me as the guy that was wet sanding bikes.
That's little Jake from little Jace from the other side.
Yeah, just washing bikes at events, and that's what they know me as, and they almost like they never let you grow out of that idea of what they see you as.
We do that too. I do that to people too, though, sometimes.
Yeah,
looking back, thinking about it, I do that. Well, that's old, so and so from down the street. Well, that was a long time ago.
It's old piss pants over there.
Yeah, people don't forget.
Yeah,
yeah, yeah.
But I find it like it. We were talking about that when I got here. How it's, I felt like once I started reaching outside of Dallas-Fort Worth to find work, I was able to grow. You know what I mean? If I stayed within that metroplex, I would always have been subject to the way things or what people already knew me as. I was always going to be the guy with flaws. You know what I mean? All that shit. You know what I'm saying?
I do.
But it's crazy. Well, here in Amarillo, man, like, we kind of touched on it. You said there's about 250,000 people living here. It feels bigger than it sounds.
Again, like I said, I think there's more than that, but I think they're probably a little deceptive, for whatever reasons. But
there seems like a really great bike vibe up here. Is what I was kind of, Yeah,
it really used to be real good. You had a lot of the money people. When it was fatty, it was really good because they all wanted a bike. The early 90s to probably 2006 was strong.
Nice.
And you have some money here, like sure in Dallas, but here you don't have the hustle and bustle maybe. So it's easier to get out and be on that type of bike, especially for the bikes at the time, the Chopper, the Pro Street bikes, the ones that are more of a show bike.
Yeah.
Then, you're not going to ride it to anywhere most times.
Where do y'all usually ride to around here if y'all get out and do something?
I mean, I don't really ride that much anymore. I mean, I didn't back then either because I was always busy painting and doing stuff. I've gone to, like I said, the Born Free Texas. I rode to that here the last time.
Oh, yeah.
My friend, I don't know if you've ever met Atomic Trent.
I know of him, yeah.
He's in Montana, but when he was in New Mexico, he would have a Ground Zero throwdown where it was a camp bike thing. This is probably 2006 or so. So we would do that with him, go all around northern New Mexico. Then we went into Arizona one year. I used to ride to Austin every year for the car show or for we went to Giddy Up, things like that. Hand built show.
Nice.
It was always kind of coincided with the Lone Star Roundup, so I could kill two birds with one stone.
Yeah.
which I think I've been to every roundup. So
Lone Star Roundup's the one they do in Austin, right?
Right.
Because there's another Lone Star something they do in Houston, isn't there? Like a truck
Lone
thing?
Star Throwdown,
Probably,
something, or
yeah.
yeah. And then Heat Wave. They used to have a Heat Wave.
Yeah, Heat Wave used to be
Yeah,
crazy.
that was a nuts
I
one.
forgot
there.
about Heat Wave. God damn. Heat Wave was like the truck version of Rot Rally back in the day.
Yeah, it's like, yeah, it was a hepatitis fest. That's ugly. I don't even, I'm not trying to booger anybody, but
Yeah.
oh, it was so dirty and seedy sometimes.
Yeah.
We went to last time I went to the Rot Rally was in 11.
11?
I went with Atomic Trent. We took a couple of our bikes down there. And I didn't realize what it was. It didn't used to be that way early on when we had gone the first time. And when we were there the next time, like, there were swimming pools set up at this place. And it was, I mean, I don't want to see a bunch of, 50-year-old men riding around with their junk hanging out. Oh my God, it was terrible.
I've been trying to think about why that is, because everybody has said it at one point in time it was a legit kind of rally, and I wonder if maybe the generation that does it, because like if you go to like a campground in Sturgis, right, you're gonna see that kind of stuff, but with more of a motorcycle centric aspect to it, right? And so when I go to a campground at Sturgis, and I'm around that, I don't feel like this is a joke the way I feel like it's a joke when I go to Rot Rally.
So
There's no golf carts in Sturgis.
Right, Sturgis is an In the Wind magazine.
Yeah.
Rot Rally is something other.
Yeah.
It's I don't even know if there's something that I could compare it to.
So I wonder if like maybe the generation that kind of leans into that more, they get more accustomed, or they enjoy that aspect of just like setting up their spot and don't really care to ride or leave. They keep getting bigger RVs and doing more of a party spectacle in front. You know what I mean?
The bike kind of is secondary.
Yeah, it's like, well, man, we're not even gonna ride it. Why do we even take it? We could put it in a golf cart and place those bikes.
And just walk around naked. Yeah.
And so Rot Rally's been going through it. They've been trying to revamp that thing, but I just, I had a conversation with some guys down there recently, and I let them know, I was like, you just need to let that die. Some things need, they need to just be remembered, like Giddy Up. I love it. I wish it was still around, but it's something cool about it. Just kind of.
I think I went to the first one of those.
For real?
The very first one. Yeah, it was good.
Yeah.
The guy that used to do the poncho run.
Yeah.
Tyler.
So my buddy Corey was telling me about the poncho run, and I thought that was such a brilliant idea.
Yeah, and those guys are great too. Like I said, they were car guys. I met them through the Roundup. We went to the Roundup the first year, and Tyler was one of the Continentals, one of the ones that put the show on. Mm-hmm. So we ended up becoming friends, and then he got in. I think he was one of the partners in what was that? Fly Right Choppers.
Okay.
Remember that? He was
that.
one of the partners initially with that. Again, I could be talking out my ass, so just what I was told. Mm. But anyway, that's how we knew each other, and then he started doing that run. I think they did some crazy things too. Their dirty pants, and
they wore the same white overalls on the.
If you were new, I think. If you were
that's how it worked.
Maybe I'm not positive.
I think that shit could make such a huge comeback nowadays. I feel like right now, younger people in motorcycles, I think they're yearning for a little bit more of that, break away from the norm kind of thing that's going on with society right now.
Yeah.
A lot of conformities going on, and I feel like, even motorcycles has a bit of conformity within that as well. And I feel like those old runs where you're some stupid rule, it could be fun,
Yeah, it should be fun. I mean, it's a motorcycle. Yeah, for instance, when you see people riding, they always got that mean, the biker face on.
Yeah.
Not me.
Yeah.
I'm probably smiling. If you could see me through my helmet, it's exciting. It's fun. You wave at each other. Of course, I don't wave. I don't know. I asked somebody the other day, am I supposed to wave when everybody does that? Is it a Harley thing? Is it like if I'm in my Ford Flex, do I wave at all the Ford Flex people?
It's a Jeep thing.
It's a Jeep, yeah. Okay.
The wave thing is fun. I just don't wave back at the ones that have three wheels on them, unless it's let me take that back. I don't wave back at the slingshots and stuff.
Yeah.
Because they have steering wheels and pedals. Not
That's true. It's a car, pretty much.
car.
Yeah, it's a car.
It's a 3-wheeled car, not a motorcycle. But no, it's there's just hearing those old stories. I was Corey from Main Drive had told me about the poncho runs and about what they did, and then I had a guy that's part of the Terralingua run.
Yeah.
He was on the podcast last year with Adam that puts that on, and I think he was a part of that as well. So I started hearing bits and pieces of the stories of the poncho run. I just thought it was a fucking cool idea. And even like you telling me the one that y'all were doing in New Mexico sounds like a really badass idea.
You'd end up on dirt roads. It was, I don't know, Gabe from After Hours Choppers?
He's the one that does a lot of those tall neck. Is it Big Gabe or something like that?
Maybe. He builds parts, he does shifter handles, chopper parts. Him and his wife were riding on it. They came and they cooked every year, for every stop. You're camping. Of course, he always picked great camping spots on the lake or by the river in the big tall pines. Great. It was so much fun.
Yeah.
And then, of course,
how many people would go with y'all?
I'm going to say there was probably 100.
Damn, that many?
And then at night, like when everybody would meet back in Albuquerque, he would have the street blocked off, and they would have a bike show, and the Biltwell guys would judge the bikes, and they'd have the typical raffles and 50/50s, all that stuff. Mm-hmm. I think one year, I won everything. I ended up with helmets and all kinds of stuff.
Nice.
But yeah, so that was a lot of fun. But as far as back to the question where we ride, I mean, around here it's 300 miles before you're out of the flat.
Okay.
Whether you're to Albuquerque, we have a little bit of some stuff, little canyony, small areas. But even to Oklahoma City is 300 miles. Mm-hmm. We're very flat. We're out here on the plains. It's mostly windy.
Yeah,
we're the windiest city in America.
Yeah.
So, if you want to deal with that. So what you see around here is guys who basically ride to the bar.
Yeah.
They do their toy runs and things like that, which is fine.
Yeah, Ruidoso's not too far from here, but I don't know if there's great riding there, though. I mean, it's cool mountains, but...
We did 1 year to Ruidoso on Trent's Run. Mm-hmm. It was good. I don't know. Like I said, that's still, you got to go through Roswell and Clovis, and it's flat and
your probably good. Best bet is Taos is probably your closest, huh?
Yeah.
So.
And we do that 1 year too. Do the circle.
I've never done that whole, what do they call it? The
Enchanted Circle?
Enchanted Circle, that's what it is. I've never really done a lot of those.
It's good. It's fun.
Nice.
Yeah.
I haven't done Red River yet, which I want to do that. Heard they had a little issue a couple weeks back.
Yeah, I guess it was bad, huh? Yeah. I guess what I heard, the run is over. They're going to stop doing the memorial.
What was the run? Oh,
the
just
memorial,
the
Red River Memorial.
Damn,
they've had it 41 years.
Damn.
And whatever happened, they've had enough. I think the people that own the businesses said no more. So
yeah, it's kind of strange how to have the life of an event like that, you got to find a town that it's got to be like a circus show where the town needs the money to come in, but there's not much growth in the town outside, like Sturgis, right?
Yeah.
Because Daytona's overrun with people now. It's like same thing that happened with Rock Rally. You would go to Rock Rally and you just be in a campground the whole time you try to go to the city. You're sitting in traffic. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, it's so
like the
terrible.
cities just overgrew the simplicity of what these rallies were about.
And like I said, like Red River's a good one because it's so small. Mm-hmm. 30,000 people in that place. It's wild.
Yeah.
But there's the surrounding towns. People stay all along the circle. Taos, Angel Fire place, and it's gorgeous up there. The time of year is perfect. So it's unfortunate that was their biggest event. They have. Mm-hmm. So a lot of those businesses are going to suffer.
Yeah, it sucks.
So
they do any other kind of events up there? You think?
I think they have some car shows and music fest, chili fest. Nothing that brings 30,000 people in.
Yeah.
But maybe they'll figure it out. I don't know. I hope they do.
Yeah, it might just have to take a break from it for a couple of years and whatever. But yeah, it sucks, man. Yeah, I think the dude Matt Jackson ended up catching a bullet up there. I don't think he was like killed or anything. Just I don't know. I don't really want to speak on it. It's all club stuff.
Yeah,
but,
who knows? Who knows? That's a good dude too.
Yeah.
He was. He used to work at Speed Shop, Austin Speed Shop, I think. Yeah.
Yeah. Did a podcast with him earlier this year, and it's literally the biggest podcast I've ever put out as far as like people watching it on our YouTube. Mm-hmm. It's hit over like almost at 250,000 people who watch that thing.
Wow.
It's insane.
It's funny. So I just got on the internet like in 2015.
Okay.
And I don't mean the internet. I know how to use the internet.
Yeah.
But I didn't have Facebook or Instagram or any of that stuff. I think I got Instagram in maybe 13. Mm-hmm. But I just never messed with it.
Yeah.
And didn't realize how beneficial it was to a business, or, seeing something new, knowing where the next
trends are coming.
What people want. Yeah. Hey, do you know so-and-so? No. But now, like I said, I'm on it regular. In the evenings I'll come home and look through and see the people, stuff that I like and stuff. But, excuse me. Yeah, I kind of lost track. I started getting hot. I lost track of where I was at with that.
Yeah, Instagram is, it's not quite as good as it was back in 13, 14, 15, 16 area, but yeah, if you can regulate your time on it, it's much better. Like I got to a point where I was checking it every time I was bored.
Yeah.
And, they call it doom scrolling, I guess is what it's called, where you're just the motion flipping up.
Yeah.
And now I try to transfer that into YouTube. That way, if I don't have anything to do, at least maybe I can find something that's of interest or something I might be able to learn something from on YouTube and spend that time doing that rather than just mindlessly scrolling,
So my thought came back. So the podcast thing, of course you hear Joe Rogan, and of course then I listen to the political ones and be mad all day. Well, then somebody sent me Kirk Taylor. I'm friends with Kirk Taylor.
Kirk, yeah.
Somebody sent me the link to that. So that was the first one of yours that I heard.
Uh-huh.
Of course, I think the world of him. He's a cool dude.
He's a good dude, man.
Yeah, he's a good dude. I met him through Rick Dorr. Anyway, so then you and I talked about doing this, and Joe and the other guys said, hey, we're going to be on the podcast. I'm like, oh, okay. So I get on the deal and start following it. So I've been listening to them. Mm-hmm. So in the last, probably since Joe came through here the last time, I probably listened to, I don't know, since 300. I don't know how many you're in now. 20,
like
25?
26.
Well, I listened to them at like 1.6 speed. I got to get it off. You keep it moving.
Yeah.
But not knowing how the scene is, when you sit here in a town like where we're at, you don't know what's going on. But seeing how it is now, it's kind of refreshing. People are, the way they're getting out, they're like buddies. That's really cool to me. So I'm going to try to get out a little bit more on my stuff.
Yeah.
Now that those guys come through, well, next time they come through, I'm going to join in with them. We went to Born Free, and they let me hang out with them and stuff. And I think I met some of your friends too. Franz?
Yeah, Franz.
Franz?
Yeah.
They had a trailer over there.
Yeah,
anyway, overly nice. Hey, you want to sleep in here? You hungry? You want drinks or whatever?
That's the part of this scene that I think that we've been trying to promote for the longest now. And fortunately, every little bit of drama that we've had, we've been able to keep it, contained and not let it blow up on the line and turn into like a teams kind of battle kind of thing.
Uh-huh.
And everybody just respects each other, man. Like we're all, I think that I think most of us understand how the world works now and that there is enough to go around, especially with motorcycling stuff. That's why I'm friends with most of the painters that I've had the pleasure of meeting. We're friends. We're cool. And it's another thing is like I turn down a lot of work too, and sometimes they do, and they send them to me, and I send them to there, and it's just like a better place to be when you don't feel like you gotta hustle against the world to make a living and do these crafts, whether you're building bikes or painting them, and then also have to be against the people that you like, your brothers within this, right?
Yeah.
The people in the industry too. Like, I don't know. I feel like since when I found the FXR community, it kind of inspired me to promote that ideology through this podcast. And I think some of it's translated into like performance baggers and the softail scene and, you know, kind of into the dyna culture that's around. But, you know, there's still, there's a lot of good people out there. And I think that by using podcasts and other people's show of finding the good people and getting their voices out more, you get less people on here talking shit, being, you know, machismo assholes and things like that, which, you know, there's people out there that like that. But when they have a spokesperson, then more of them come out of the woodworks, and then it fucks up our scene. Yeah, you know, which none of us want that.
Well, I like what they're doing now. I mean, it's like I said, it was pretty welcoming. Yeah, you know, because I didn't know anybody there. I just rode down, and I didn't know if I'd see Joe or them again. Yeah. When I got down there, of course, I had problems. My ignition went out in Corsicana. Oh. Well, 8.1 miles from Corsicana, so I pushed my bike over at this house, and then I ran 8 miles with a backpack and a helmet on and stupid Vans tennis shoes, and I'm old. Like the last mile, I had to take my shoes off. My feet hurt so bad. Damn. So, but I ended up making it, got there, and they saw me and came to me and kept me with them the whole rest of the time, you know.
Oh, that's cool.
So super nice. And then, like I said, I ran into later in the evening, when everybody was hanging out and drinking and stuff, I ended up in your group over there. And all of them, very welcoming, super nice. You know, you need anything? Oh, very cool.
Hey, man,
I can't say that my group of friends would be that way. You know, well, maybe it's our age that people are, you know, you got your group and that's that. And it's not really great.
That's how it was, you know, and I think that we've all tried to push or break those walls down, because when you start traveling on these bikes, like you need people to reach out and you know, give you, like I've already had 3 people reach out about letting me crash here in Amarillo. People I don't know, never met. You know what I mean? Yeah. And that's cool. You know, I'm not going to take them up on it. You know, I'm going to try to keep moving down the road a little bit.
Well, you can stay here too.
So there's 4, so.
Okay. You could have Joe's couch.
Okay.
He's a regular.
But, you know, it's, like I said, it's like trying to pay that forward is like what keeps, I think, all this shit fun and cool. You know what I mean? And it makes you want to be a part of it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I like it. Really. That's my wife and I went out and bought gear and everything. I bought some new shoes after having to run. I'm like, man, we're not doing this shit again. Yeah. I bought a jacket, you know, all the things that you know, over the years, if you don't go very often, you just run here and there. Yeah. You know, your little mechanic's jacket's not enough, you know. Yeah. So I started thinking, well, these guys are doing it right. I'm going to give it a shot. Yeah. So
there's good stuff out there, man. It's like I said, I hate that I found this at 30 years old, as far as like traveling and being more involved in the motorcycle industry and scene. But I'm glad I did find it in general, because I plan on being a part of this as long as I can, as long as my body will let me. Yeah. And even if I can't ride, I'm going to be out there somehow, you know, trying to keep the good times and good vibes going. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So,
well, now that my daughter's graduated, you know, we got through all that stuff. Whenever you have a kid in school, your time is extremely limited. Yeah. There's no running out and taking off on a motorcycle trip. At least for me, when you have a job. So I kind of put all that to the side. Even my business, I took in way less work, side business. Yeah. To do stuff with her, because basically what would happen is if she needed me to do something, whatever I had out here, we weren't doing it. Yeah. And then your customer's like, well, you take forever. Well, you're right. But I try to tell you in the beginning, if I've got something, if I come home one day and I don't want to do it, I'm not going to do it. Yeah. You don't want that to get away from you, but sometimes you got to. Yeah. Well, now she's through school. She was in dance and soccer, and she played football, and she did everything. Now she's in jiu-jitsu, so it's always something. She's super active, but she also works and has her own life now. So we're going to try to do a little more of this sort of thing, because I like this. You know?
Well, I mean, y'all got a good place up here, man. Like, this city seems like it would be a fun weekend getaway, especially for us in Dallas. A 350-mile rip up here on a Friday. Party all weekend, ride around, see what's going on, and then rip home Sunday.
Yeah, you know, it's not that far.
Yeah, and you have a camp out in your shop here.
Hey, it won't be the first time. Yeah, you got the canyon here, Pellier Canyon. There's things.
I need to go see that damn thing.
Yeah, it's a big old hole.
It's hard to believe it's there when you're riding through here and you're like, there's no way there's the second biggest canyon in America here.
And what's funny is as you ride out to it, I mean, you don't believe it still. And then you get there and all of a sudden it falls in a huge hole. And like, oh my goodness, it's really something. Yeah. Now it's not Grand Canyon-ish, but it's, the same. So
that's wild.
Yeah.
Well, shit, man. I appreciate this.
Yeah, no,
it's been fun.
Man, I was so excited when you asked me. I was like, wow, you do some good people. I'm glad to be in the same group.
Well, hey, Joe and all those guys, like, they wouldn't tell me that you'd be a great podcast if they weren't, onto something. So
yeah, well, when they were here last, I didn't want to try to be, humble and stuff. And like, what do you do? And I was like, well, I show them like, oh, would you paint that? Well, yeah. And then it's like, would you paint that? Yeah. Well, were you in this magazine? Yeah. Well, which one? Well, all of them. Yeah. What? You don't know when somebody. So I was like, oh, you're really interested. Great.
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah. I mean, you got a magazine rack over there. It looks like I'm at a 7-Eleven.
Yeah. That's a lot of years. Where I was fortunate. The top is all covers, and then the bottom are just, whatever.
That's fucking cool.
Yeah. That way my kids can sell them when I'm old, when I'm gone.
That's rad, man. Well, hey, John, I appreciate this, man.
Oh, man, thank you.
Looking forward to seeing you out and more stuff.
Yeah, I'm going to come with y'all at something. Okay, I'll be there.
All right, well, take it easy.
Thank you.
Hope you guys enjoyed that. I had a great time meeting and talking with John and getting to see a little bit of Amarillo. I'm pretty stoked about the FXR Tour coming through Amarillo on our way to Born Free, Texas later on this year. My FXR is coming along nicely, thanks to Corey from Main Drive Cycle. Eventually, I'm going to get my hands on it and actually do what I'm good at on it, and can't wait to show you that. Also, if you guys, please check out our sponsors. A lot of great opportunities for you to get cool shit for you, your motorcycle, and help out this podcast in the process. As well as don't forget to check out our Patreon, where I'm actually giving away a Ghost Bandit Simpson motorcycle helmet today. So you could have got that. You could have been in the running for that. You got to go on our page, on our Patreon. There's a link down below. Become a patron, help support this podcast, and possibly win some cool shit. All you guys that do support it, thank you. All you listeners, thank you again. And yeah, got one more podcast for you today. You guys have a good one.